It's a modified Commonplace book. So this is a Commonplace binder. I'm going to put this down now. But yeah, it's a modified Commonplace book. What is a Commonplace book? Well, Commonplace book has been used for centuries, if not millennia, by mostly intellectuals, writers, and other famous people. Sometimes just random people. And it's all about connecting ideas, storing ideas in a place, and a whole bunch of other intellectual things which kind of fall through the gaps. Or, you know, people will take annotations in school, but they'll be like, what do I do with these annotations? Where do I put them? It's like, those would go in a Commonplace book. But we don't really do that anymore. So yeah, this is the Commonplace Binder 101 playlist. There are 100, not 101 videos in the playlist. Sorry about that. Although at this point there should only be 34. So, thank you for watching. Yeah, modified Commonplace book. We kind of did that. Creates additional tools. Now, if you have a thing which fills in all the gaps, it might be you have a gap which is unfilled, not because the thing doesn't exist, but because you just don't have a planner, or you just don't have a journal, or you don't have a to-do list. And so if you don't have those things, this can just kind of fill that gap. So why is it a modified Commonplace book? Well, normally a Commonplace book just has things that go in, and there's a fancy index in the back so you can figure out exactly where all the things are. I just have a content section, so no need to worry about that. There are no page numbers because this is a binder and the things move around, so it doesn't really make sense to have an index in the back, and I get by with just a content section. And the way I do that is I have tabs. So it's a lot easier to find the things because, you know, I just have like, I don't know, 40 different categories, roughly, at a time. Could be 20, could be 60. The problem is if you have more than a certain number, it will start to hurt the rings and the pages, and everything will just get moved around. So basically, it's a modified Commonplace book. You can create additional tools by just taking out one of the sections, being like, now I have a planner, now I have a journal, now I have a to-do list. Like, it's not really a problem. So you can lose a lot fewer ideas this way, or just fewer, rather than a whole bunch. And the reason for this is because you just write things down and figure out where they go. So it's pretty easy. Normally people would call this a brain dump. So it might be we're not creating additional tools here, we're just creating a giant brain dump, which is basically just dumping your brain thoughts all over the table. Now, all over the page, and then you put them where they're supposed to go. But yeah, you'll forget a lot less if you write down the things that you used to remember. You know what I mean? Not super complicated, but this is a way to never start from zero, because you will have written something down, so you won't be starting from zero. There's always going to be something to work with. Include all the details. So it might be, you find a quote, and that's cool. Who does it come from? I don't know. Maybe you don't know either, because you didn't write down who it comes from, or where you found it. And that can be really frustrating. So if you get it from a book, write down the book title. If you got it from a certain page, which you did because it came from a book, then write down the page number. And there are some more things you could do. I mean, nowadays you could just Google it, probably. So, I mean, that's part of the reason why this is a modified Commonplace book, because a standard old school Commonplace book doesn't work better than like anything we have now. It is very useful, but you know, it's not the most efficient. Now, even though it's not the most efficient, I do believe everyone should be able to have one. So it says the right to bear knowledge. What is that about? Well, in the US we have the right to bear arms. And while, you know, a lot of people appreciate guns and stuff, I feel like being able to carry around a book that contains all of the knowledge you've found from other books might also be useful. And so people might disagree about where and when that would be allowed. Like, for example, does every prisoner get to have their own book that they bring in from the outside? Maybe that would just include ways to get out of prison. So, like, people might debate about that sort of thing. However, if you don't have grandparents and they have one of these, and you have 1/4 of each one of their books, congrats, you actually have your grandparents, at least part of them. And like, that's a lot better than 0. So it might be kind of nice if we could have a little box to keep our book in, and you know, also be allowed to carry that around with us. Just saying. If the bots are walking around and they're allowed to keep knowledge with them, or at least information, I'm not going to be calm if I'm not able to keep my own information with me at all times, because stuff gets lost up here, and you might think, oh, well, I'm safe from that. Well, if you turn 80, or 90, or 100, it might not be so easy anymore. You know, not saying that everybody that's old forgets everything, but like, the chance does increase. You know, like if somebody's younger than 20, they probably don't know everything, and if they are older than 80, they've probably forgotten some things. It's never that simple, obviously. But this is a way to actually make things more simple, because we don't necessarily need to have a standard Commonplace book. We could just have a modified version, and that's kind of nice, because there's no algorithm, there's no thing that's trying to be sold. Like in this video, there's also nothing trying to be sold. I'm not trying to sell you a binder, just get your own. In the 66 video, I will talk a little bit about products, but this playlist for 2025 is mostly to convince people to watch the playlist for 2026. So yes, it is selling something. This is the next video down here, so like I will redirect you to that, but like we're just gonna keep it simple. Altered nature. So we are altering nature a little bit by turning the trees into paper. No, it you might be able to alter your own nature if you keep the information in a place and then casually refer to it over time. I do actually find that my thought patterns end up really different than a lot of people, because basically I'll just do the equivalent of chilling in my room for 5 years, and then I'll talk to someone and they'll be like, what do you mean you haven't heard of this? I'm like, heard of what? Or I'll have the ideas presented in such a way to the point where I'll have different perspective from points in time. So I'll have a perspective from now, because I exist, just like you exist if you're watching this. But if you write down your thoughts from 5 years ago, you know, 5 years ago. So the only way to do this would be to write down your thoughts now and then move 5 years into the future and then look at your thoughts and be like, wow, that was from 5 years ago. So it's better to just write things down all the time so you can look back and be like, oh yeah, that's what that was. So not really altered nature, more of an altered thought pattern, which is quite fun. So reduce school notes. What is it? Apparently, it's a way to reduce your school notes. Now, the way that I actually started my original Commonplace binder, which is not this, this is a demonstration, which is kind of funny because this looks like a lot of work, and it was. But, you know, if you do a page a day for 3 years, you will have over 1,000 pages. So, like, it's not that hard. It is kind of that hard because you have to just keep doing it, and the act of doing it can really stress people out. Because it's a thing, and people hate doing things all the time. It's like having to work. But yeah, reduce school notes. So I was told that my school was good and useful, and the information in that place would be good and useful. So I held on to the stuff, and then after I graduated, I looked through the stuff, and it kind of sucked. Now, some parts were kind of useful, but for the most part, it wasn't that good. So what I did is I would put the stuff in here, and then I would get rid of about 10% of the pages as I would go through and summarize them all into, you know, half a page. And I actually turned it into somewhat useful information, because if you get rid of half the stuff after putting everything into your own words, maybe it'll be kind of useful. Converting scraps. Yeah, so the school notes are kind of garbage. A lot of the time they're just like scrap paper, and sometimes they are quite literally scrap paper, and so those are the things I would deal with first, because if you have like lined paper which is hole punched but also falling out of the binder, then like get rid of that first. Yeah, that's not too complicated. But the first thing you have to do is start. So start doing the thing right now. So maybe you can write down a note or a timer or something to start doing that after this video is over, because, you know, sometimes people will say, do the thing right now, but nobody really wants to pause a video halfway through. We want to complete the process and complete the loop. Or at least that is my experience. So if you have a different experience, please leave that in the comments down below. But yeah, I'm not going to be showing my Commonplace binder because, well, it's more like 30, and I do this more so digitally now. Also, this is more of a starter tool. So I talked about how Commonplace books were originally, you know, kind of like a book of books where you keep everything in one place, but computers kind of fill that role now. So it doesn't really make sense to have a Commonplace book. Except that's the thing. Maybe you do want a Commonplace book, maybe you don't want a Commonplace binder. And so this, as a Commonplace binder, is more of a way to figure out what you actually want rather than a process that you will keep for your entire life. So it might be that you keep it for your entire life. You keep doing it, and that's great. But it's really something to fill the gaps. It's not really something to, like, solve every problem in your life. It just picks up the slack. Like, if you're slacking on something, this can help you out, probably. It's not a silver bullet. It is not a silver bullet. So it's not going to solve every single problem, and if you use it wrong, it's might actually cause you more problems. I don't know. Maybe you're going to vlog the process, you figure out how that goes. It's really funny how many Commonplace book videos I thought were basically a vlog. Because I don't know if you saw the last video, but in the last video, or the previous video, I talked about where I get all these little blurbs of information. Anyways, they're kind of a collection of treasures. So from now on, well, after I finish this playlist, I should be able to just kind of put a line through the middle of this, turn this into one video, and turn this into another video. And I'll do deep dives rather than just random videos. And so when I do those will be more focused, and when I do them, well, they won't get done if I don't want to do them. So it'll be a lot easier. Student journal. What student is going to journal in this if it's like part of school? Probably none of them. No, I'm sure there's always one person that's going to do it. There's always one person that does everything, which is always very silly. But yeah, if this is for middle schoolers, I don't expect middle schoolers to write down all of their thoughts and feelings and emotions and stories and then share them with every single classmate and teacher. That seems kind of insane. So what the people are going to write down is going to be more like a traditional Commonplace book. They're probably going to add the periodic table and a history timeline and all of the things that they actually need for school if they are allowed to use it in the classroom for some sort of assignment. Because they're not going to write down how they feel about their pet dog that they used to have. You know, like, that doesn't make sense. They're going to be pushing towards their goals. And what is their goal in school? To get out of school as soon as possible and have the school actually mean something. So if they're able to build something along the way and they're able to, like, figure out how to use it and it actually does something, maybe they might find that helpful. So what is a Commonplace binder? Something that helps you push towards your goals. And with that, we are done with the video because we have to talk about how students list ideas in the next one. So if you want to see that, check that out. If you don't, I hope you have a great day. And start doing this if you haven't done it already. And there should be a playlist on screen. Might be over there. Might be over there. I don't know. I am showing 2 different end cards and then also a subscribe. So if that's too much, let me know. Maybe it should just be one thing that talks about the playlist or recommends a specific video, and then the subscription thing. I don't know if that should be there. But anyways, thank you for watching. I need to drink some water. Maybe you do too. Okay, bye.